Welcome everyone to After Awakening. We are here with Scott. Scott, how's it going?
Yeah, it's going great, Ryan. It's going great. You're my hero, brother. I've been trying to sit in the lotus position for 10 hours, but I only last about 10 minutes, and then I can't walk for the rest of the day. So, but other than that, we're good.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, really excited to have you actually, and to get to know you a little more and to hear about your just absolutely remarkable story. I mean, it just seemed like a Kundalini awakening, an awakening of intense magnitude, just whacked you over the side of the head. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about it, and I definitely know that my guests are. So I'm going to introduce you to everyone, and then we're going to get started. So
Sounds good, Ryan.
Scott Bryant Comstock, for the past 40 years, his journey as a mental health advocate has spanned working at a suicide and crisis center, as a therapist in an outpatient clinic. He's been an in-home family therapist, a state mental health official, board chair for a county mental health program, and a national reviewer of children's mental health systems reform efforts. Scott is the founder of the Children's Mental Health Network, established in 2009, and leads the network's efforts to grow a national online forum for the exchange of ideas on how to continually improve children's mental health research, policy, and practice. In 2019, Scott had a Kundalini awakening, which dramatically changed his life for the better and put him in touch with the universe in a way that had not been realized before. His purpose, in his own words, is to be of service to others and nourish their quest to become the better human they strive to be. Scott, we're happy to have you on After Awakening. Welcome to the show.
Ryan, I'm so pleased to be with you. I'm honored to be with you. Good seeing you, brother.
Absolutely. So, Scott, I mean, we've talked, we've had conversations outside of this show, and your story is interesting, man. I'll say that much. A lot of people, at least in my generation, they have an awakening young, early 20s, late 20s, and they're into meditation at a younger age because it's more acceptable these days. But you didn't have an awakening until 3 years ago, and
Go
your
easy,
life
brother. I would go easy, brother. I was 63.
has nothing to do with any of this. So I'm really excited to hear what this was all about and what it was
Yeah.
like for you. How did this begin?
You
And
know,
what's your background?
Yeah, it's so interesting. In terms of studying meditation or being on a spiritual quest, none of that was happening for me in my life. This had the only experience I had ever had with meditation was when I was in college. And I think I've shared with you this with you in other conversations. But I was in college at San Jose State University, and I think it was 1976, maybe something like that. And this is before the internet and before social media and all of that. So people would hang out at the student union, right? And there were these beautiful girls hanging out with sorry brother, let's just cut right to the chase, and
Oh,
and
for
so
sure.
and they were doing transcendental, or they were talking about TM. And at that time, and I assume it's still the case, you could, I think it was $112. It was, I don't know, I can't remember how much it was to take a TM course. So I did, and it was beautiful and it was wonderful, but I was doing it for all the wrong reasons. I was doing it because I thought, wow, maybe I can connect with one of these beautiful young ladies. That sounds so terrible, but I would cut me some slack, man. I was 20 years old,
You were
so
young and hungry, Scott.
young and hungry, as they say. So it really, I laugh about it now. It really is kind of funny. So it was wonderful in its own right, just the opportunity to have quiet reflection. But as far as a practice, that was not it. So fast forward 40 years, 43 years, um, and it's right before the pandemic started. And I had been thrown off a horse when I was about 22, I guess. I was 23, maybe something like that. It was, I was recently married, and I got thrown off a horse and really hurt my back, not to the point where I broke it or anything like that, but it's always been sore, right? It's one of those things, it's chronic pain. And over the years, I've gone to different massage therapists for help with that. And I was seeing a Thai massage therapist who was wonderful, but uh, the city that she was in, it was about an hour, hour and a half drive in traffic. And so it just got to the point where I thought, I got to get something closer. I find a massage therapist out of the, going online. And my criteria was somebody who had gone to the same massage therapy school that my Thai massage therapist had gone to. Because I thought, okay, I want somebody reputable. I want somebody who knows what they're doing. And so I found a name. And it turns out that this person did not do Thai massage, but she did a combination of craniosacral therapy. I don't know if you know what that is. It's just, yeah, okay, so, aligning the craniosacral fluid in the body and like, Swedish massage, right? And so I make an appointment with her. I'm going in to get my back fixed, is what I'm going to do. And we had one session and I just started crying. I mean, it's just, now this is just like, it's like out of the blue. And I'm crying. And at the end of the session, she, was asking me what the experience was like. And I said, I don't know, something's going on. And this is not like me, Ryan, to do that. And so we agreed to do a 6 week session. So once a week for 6 weeks. She was offering a 6 week series, just massage, no expectations, no discussion about what it would be. And she is not somebody who, I learned later, um, what's beautiful, what her name is Diane. What's beautiful about Diane is she very much is clear that anything that's going on is you, not her. Her job is to hold space, is the way she looked at it. So I started this 6 week series, and that's when everything just exploded. And Ryan, I throughout this conversation, if it's okay, I took copious notes because I wasn't going into this, I'm going to become spiritually awakened. That language didn't even exist. The word kundalini, I didn't even know what that was, right? It was just, as I like to say, it was like I fell off a truck. So the first session was on October 8th of 2019. I'm crying. I don't know why. I don't know what's going on. So I come back um, November 5th, we have our first session. And most of it was her doing craniosacral therapy, right? Which doesn't even involve touching the body. Or if you are touching the body, it's a very light touch. And I just have this explosion on the table. And here's the note that I wrote to myself. I said, November 5th, started hearing voices in my head, more like impressions. A strong message to Diane. I'm supposed to tell you to trust that you have the ability to transport into people to help with their healing. A bit bizarre actually writing that out, but the message from whatever or whomever has been a drumbeat in my head for the past few hours. Now, the reason I wrote that, I'm on the table, and Ryan, and everything I say, your guests are probably going to go, okay, Scott, but it is what it is. She entered my chest. She just entered into my chest and went inside me with her hands and just spread inside and went down to my pelvic area. And it was like it was a giant chasm, if you will. And it was this orange kind of thick substance. And she's holding her hand out to me. She's inside my body and holding her hand out me, beckoning me to come with her. And so I take her hand and we go through this, like it's like a membrane or something. Now, brother, I, I now let's just stop for a minute, all right? What the hell is going on? I'm lying on the table and I'm on this journey and I'm gone, right? I'm completely gone from my head, and I'm on this journey with with her into my body, and it's the most beautiful thing. And in my mind, I guess I'm trying to make sense of this, and it's like she is showing me the other side, the plane that is not the plane of existence that I'm used to, right? That I'm looking at you and talking to you, and this is a whole different plane, yet it's the same plane, if that makes any sense at all. It is, and it is, and so this is happening on a table. I'm just there to get my back fixed, and so that was really, really freaky. And we come back out, and then we go to um, uh, the next session that I go in, and I mean, how do I say this? Uh, she is standing on the side of me, and I'm looking at her, and the life drains out of her body. I mean, she goes from flesh colored to ashen gray. Her eyes turn jet black, and I'm I'm watching this. Her spirit comes out of her body into mine through my chest, and then it's almost like she was bathing my insides with this radiant heat. Uh, and I, Ryan, it was beautiful. It was incredible. And it wasn't, and I wasn't trying to understand something. It wasn't like a therapy session where you're trying to figure this out or this, that. None of that. None of that. I'm just having this experience, and she is inside my body, and I'm feeling that. And yet when I look at her, I'm lying on the table. When I look at her, it's like she's dead, but she's standing there. There is no life in the body. It is all transported into me. And so we go through this process again of going through this membrane, if you will, and experiencing this other side. And it's, I'm trying to figure out what is going on. We come back out of that. That session is over, and I have this ringing in my head, which I have to this day, um, and it's only gotten more pronounced. I you're from California. I don't know if you have cicadas and southern, or if you know what cicadas are.
I do.
So, if you've ever been, have you ever been in like a wooded area when the cicadas come out, and it's that incredibly loud vibratory sound? That's what's in my head all the time. But it popped. It was like suddenly, it popped, and the sound is in my head, and it's a combination of millions of cicadas and being at the base of Niagara Falls, if you've ever been at the base of a waterfall. So,
Amazing.
so I'm like, oh my God. And here's the thing. This is just blazing, right? It is, I mean, it is so loud. As I talk to you right now, it is so loud. But Ryan, it doesn't bother me a bit. And I can hear everything you say. I have no trouble with that. But it's like I've jumped into this underground stream, right? That's moving really, really rapidly. And that's where I live. That's where I've lived for the last 3 years. It's just 24/7. And as I continue, it's only gotten louder. And your listeners might think, "Oh, that's terrible," but it's actually not. It is the most blissful uh state of being.
Mm.
because we're all vibration anyway, which I've come to learn, and it's just like these vibrating chords, that are. But at this point, I have no idea what's going on, right? I'm just like, oh my Lord. So November 20th, I write, I feel like a down power line dancing on the street, like a rodeo rider hanging on for dear life. The sound in my ears rages 24/7, yet it feels like a protective sheath as I hurtle forward through what I am not sure. And so I have no idea what's going on. The other thing that started happening on the table, and then it happened at home, the next session, my spine began to twist. Now, physically, this is impossible. So let's just get that out of the way. All right, or at least in our head, this is impossible. But I want you to imagine you're lying down and you can feel the base of your spine beginning to twist in a circle, and you can hear it pop and you can hear it crack. Not a lot, right? Not like it's just, and not like it happens all at once, but it's almost like if you've ever had something that's stuck and you're trying to dislodge it, and you put pressure on it and then it cracks just a little bit. That's what it was for me. And uh and I'm kind of freaking out about this whole thing. And I go home, and that night I'm lying in bed, and it does it again, and it's like my spine is turning, physically turning, and yet I know in my head this is impossible. This is just impossible, but yet it's happening. So figure that one out, brother. Come on, man.
Wow. Wow. So was the therapist intentionally taking you to these
See,
places
that's
and showing you
that's
this,
that's
or
just the magic of all of this. No, no. And Diane has always been clear. When she would take her hands and put them on my chest and then go into my body, I'm convinced of this, right? I She would just kind of smile, and the next time she does it again, I said, you're in my body right now. You've gone into my, what are you doing? I mean, I thought she had heating pads or something because it got really, really warm. I opened my eyes. She's standing like 3 feet away, and she's got her arms open like this, like that picture of Jesus, when he's got his arms open. I don't want to put any religious connotation on it. And she's standing, she said, I'm not doing anything. She said, I'm just holding space. So this is real important for me. She does not portray herself as somebody who transports into other people's bodies, somebody who is a guide to help. Not at all. She's like, I'm just holding space. And it was at that point that she said, this is my words to, like, hey, this is kind of getting out of my pay grade, because this guy's having these weird, wild experiences. Turns out she attends a satsang in Pittsburgh. I didn't know what a satsang was.
Mhm.
And that's led by my teacher now, Tom Thompson, who has an extent. He's kind of like you. He had his awakening when he was 15, and I have an interview with him on my podcast that you might be interested in. He's an amazing guy. In Pittsboro, North Carolina, this. What are the odds, Ryan, that I go and I pick out somebody who turns out to have this gift that she doesn't even talk about, who also is connected with this guy, right? Who is like a yogi. I don't even have the language right. I don't even know if that's what you call him. He said to call him his Kalyana Mitra. It was like spiritual friend, for for
Wow.
for me. So he said, and the other thing that was happening, I started having all these psychic things happen. Like I would know what I could predict what was going to happen. It was really, really weird. And I felt like you may be too young to remember this movie, but Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I don't know if it's an old movie. But anyway, in the movie, the premise of the movie, this guy gets this vision about these aliens that are coming down, and all he knows is there's this mountain that keeps appearing in his mind. and he just becomes obsessed. And you know, he's building clay models, and at one point he digs up his yard to build this model of this mountain in his house, and his family says this guy's flipped. That's how I felt. I mean, I was like possessed. You know, it's like I not in a I've seen, you know, the second coming way, just in a what the heck is going. I knew it wasn't crazy. I knew I wasn't psychotic. I work in the mental health field after all. I
Right.
used to work on a locked ward. But I thought, wow, this is interesting because I never felt unsafe, but I thought this must be what it's like because you have all these things happening that don't make sense. So so I wrote on a piece of paper before going to a session with her, you're going to introduce me to a guy who's going to help me. I think it's your husband. So I just write this on this piece of paper. I go, I'm in the session, I'm lying on the table, we're getting through it, and I'm having all this, you know, this vortex kind of stuff happening, coming out of my head. And towards the end of the session, she says, what is when she said, I think this is a little out of my pay grade. You know, she said, but I want to introduce you to somebody. And I'm like, Ryan, I'm like, oh my God. I said, so I'm lying to, you know, buck naked on the table with a sheet over me. I'm saying, grab my pants and reach in my wallet. And she reaches in the wallet. I said, pull that paper out. And then she pulls the paper out and opens it up, and it says that. Now, it wasn't her husband. I got that part wrong, but that's was Tom. You know, she was going to introduce me to Tom. So I write her this note. Um, it's November 21st, 2019. And I'm writing this, and it says, and sorry to hit you with this, but that damn pressure that's been building the past week is telling me that there's something I have to do in my meeting with Tom tomorrow. So this awakening process for me, it wasn't always pleasant. You know, it's not like angels playing harps, you know, it was like pain and pressure, like heavy pressure that needs to get out, right? And um, telling me it's something I have to do in my meeting with Tom tomorrow. I'm supposed to get on my knees and exhale really hard. I know, stupid, right? I have no idea what it means. And for all I know, it is feeding into this darkness that I'm feeling. Because remember, I'm walking around, I'm having these experiences where I'm out of my body, and I don't know what's going on. So I'm writing this note to Tom, and I say, both Diane and Tom, and I say, I am compelled to do it tomorrow as soon as I get into Tom's office. I guess I am warning you, Tom, and also asking for your help. I'm mystified as to what it means, yet the image is so strong, it is overwhelming everything else. I'm compelled to exhale so strong that everything comes out. Ryan, you know, what am I doing? so, so it's the day before I'm going to this meeting. All this stuff is going on, and I am overwhelmed. I still don't know what this means. I'm overwhelmed with the image of you know, the spiral shells, you know, like the Nautilus shells. I have, I have to get a shell. I have to get a shell. Well, you know, I don't live close to the beach. I don't know that there would be a Nautilus shell just laying there for me to get. So I go on the internet and I spend hours searching for a picture of a Nautilus shell. Well, there's millions of pictures of Nautilus shells on the internet, but for some reason I can't stop until I find one. So I go to his office the next day, first time meeting him. His office is in his home. He opens the door. I hand him this paper with this picture of the shell. I said, "Here, this is for you. I have the slightest fucking idea what this is for, but this is for you." And he just kind of laughs and he says, "Oh, nice shell." You know, this is what I love about Tom. He's brilliant. We go into his office, and it's like, you know, converted office, you know, in a house, and there's a his chair over here, and then there's a nice comfortable leather chair here for me to sit in. So so I go to sit down God, it's still emotional. I couldn't sit. Um, I tried to sit, but I was sitting, but I was not touching the chair. I was 4 inches off. It was like it would. It's like I still don't understand this, but it's like a force field. And I'm telling you, brother, I'm trying to sit in this chair, and my butt will not touch the thing. All my weight, and I get up. I try it again, and I this it was like an invisible cushion. And Tom, you know, Tom being Tom, God bless him. He didn't get crazed. I mean, when I'm telling you is impossible, I'm telling you, brother, it's impossible. I don't know that I could ever replicate it again. I did never tried to replicate it again, but my butt was 4 inches off the chair. So I tried. I'm not sure what the emotion is, but I tried 3 times. I couldn't do it. So I went over and sat on the floor. And remember the note I wrote the day before, I went over and I didn't just sit on the floor. I was on my knees and I had no control of my body. None. And I started exhaling really strongly, and I've never been able to replicate it. It was, it's like the movie The Exorcist. All the stereotypical stuff. And so I kind of hate to put it that way, but that's what it felt like. And this sound came out, and it came out from the depths of my soul and beyond. And it was this guttural, uh, like screaming, but not shrill. I'm talking deep, and I don't have a deep voice, dude. I mean, just it wasn't even my voice. It was, and the only words I knew to use at that time was demon. And I'm not a demon, and I don't believe in demons. Like, I don't I don't want to get sidetracked into that, but it was trying to get out, and it did partially. Didn't totally get out. Um, uh, and I was exhausted, and spent the entire time. We had an hour together just to kind of get to know each other. It's a hell of a way to get to know somebody, and and I was just like, my mind was blown. And Tom, being Tom, who's kind of seen all this stuff, in the yogis he's been with, both in India and in the United States. I mean, again, his awakening, he's older than I am. I'm going to guess he's about 5, 6 years older. So he's been doing this for 50 years, right? Been involved in this. And so, yeah, so I spent the whole time on the floor, and I wrote him this note. Uh, After I left, I went to a coffee shop, and in the coffee shop, so now what's happening? So now we have the sound that's always there with me. That's happening. I'm going in and out of my body. It's just, and it's easy now. It's like it's not even a thing that I'm trying to do. I go to this coffee shop, the Phoenix Bakery in Pittsburgh, and I'm standing in line, and I shoot up to the top of the ceiling, and my head is completely split open in two, not in a grotesque way. I mean, I'm looking at this, and there's all this goo coming out, and I'm going, Dad, this is kind of embarrassing. What, what's the barista gonna say? Swear to God, it's like what? So I wrote him this note. I said, first, I was physically unable to sit in the chair, as you saw. Why was that? There was an invisible barrier that kept me from sitting. That part now does not make sense to me. After I left your office, the gnawing part of my brain kept telling me I wasn't done yet. The weird feeling I get, that thing inside, is growing. And if it's like past experiences, will pop at some point. I tried to be proactive earlier tonight, tried to recreate the weird sounds that I was making in the session. I can't do it. I can't even get close. I remember the sounds like howls, that weird staccato laugh like sound at the end, which came from my stomach region, I think, and I'm unable to recreate any of them. It's like I have swallowed a big bug and have only been able to cough up half of it. I know that sounds gross, but that's what it feels like. So, uh, so well, that's the other thing about this awakening for me. I sure do wish it could have happened one and done, kind of like, on a Thursday morning at 7:30, and then it'd be over. But
Yep.
it's an ongoing process, and you stop me whenever you want, but it continues. We're just kind of getting started. Um,
I want to get into some of the perceptual specifics if you
do
don't
it.
mind.
No, let's
Okay.
do it.
So this is I'm loving this, by the way, and my listeners are not going to think this is over the top because I've shared stories that are just ridiculous.
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
so no, so this will be fine. But when you had this first experience with the therapist and seeing her eyes go black and her hands enter your body, what happened to your vantage point of consciousness? So at that point, did you start experiencing consciousness in your ordinary body, your physical body, but also in your astral body, and they were switching back and forth, or were you having like dual perception?
Yeah, so all of the above.
Mm-hmm.
So when first when I'm watching this drain, it started out here, but then so when I went into my body with her, my this Scott was irrelevant. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Scott, it was like it was just a
Background
vessel.
noise.
Yeah, yeah. We were on this journey. Um, I'll use the only words I know to capture it for me, to the other side, whatever the other side. But it wasn't, and I think that's what's really brought me such amazing peace with the whole, concept of death and what that means. It's like, this is all just a play, and it's like, and that awareness happened like an instant. It was just, yeah. And and when I say so this is when I say so I'm in my body, right? But I'm not the me out here. That cowboy, that's just a piece of furniture. But the me that's inside morphed from like a little mini me type thing to a glow. Best way I can describe it. So I'm using language like she reached out, beckoned me, and we went through. And in your mind, you think people, right? Walking through this chasm, but it's actually it you're a part of something, but you are that something. It's all one.
And just to be clear for the people who are wondering, when this started to happen, this was this like happening in your mind's eye, or are you literally having an experience of another reality the same way that you would if you were dreaming, for
Yeah,
example, while actually being awake?
completely different reality. I mean, it was there's no, oh, this is that's how it started. It's like, wait, what? And then it's almost like if you ever been on a water slide that's up real high and you're sitting up there at the top and you're thinking about what this is going to be like, but brother, once you go, right, you're in it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, another reality.
Yeah, and then you pop out in the coffee shop when I'm out of my body. That's not it's me, Ryan. But look, the way I see the world these days is all through vibration, vibration and color, and it's so permeable. It's just, which is just that beautiful reminder that we're all the same dust. We're all the same thing. Um,
I've
yeah,
never had an out of body experience while standing up, so that's really interesting. So you're at the coffee place, you're ordering coffee, and suddenly you're like in the corner of the coffee shop looking at your head being
yeah,
split open.
yeah. My head
So you,
split open. It's like and the see, you're too young to know Gumby. Do you know who Gumby is? You know Gumby?
yeah, I do actually.
All right. So think of that flat head, right? And think if you peel that apart. So again, it wasn't grotesque. It wasn't like blood and brains going out. But it's just split. And there's all this light and sparks and goo coming out. And I'm just kind of tripping on it. And yet at the same time, there's this guy down here who's a little embarrassed because he's waiting for the barista to say, dude, what's wrong with your head?
So so your vantage point split to this astral body that was looking at you from the corner of
Of
the
the
room,
coffee
right?
shop. Yeah. Yeah.
Was your awareness, was your consciousness bouncing back from your eyes looking at the barista and that thing up there, or just you were experiencing two bodies, two realities
Two, two,
simultaneously?
two at the same time. Two at the same time. I still don't know
Amazing,
I don't know what to
amazing,
tell you.
dude.
Two
I've
at
had an experience like that recently, and it's,
Really.
I mean, yeah,
Here's where my teacher is so amazing. Tom
yeah. What
has
does Tom think of all this stuff? What did
so
he say?
the one of the well, first of all, he's kind of nonplussed about it. He's like, yeah, okay, and he helps me understand what it is. But the best advice he gave me and continues to give me is beware of the roadside attractions. So the
Totally.
goal the goal is not to, like, the whole psychic stuff that was happening early on. I don't even mess with that anymore because it was like a parlor trick, you know
Hmm.
and even this stuff I don't really talk about it unless in like a forum like this and
Same here. Same here.
yeah, and it's because it I don't diminish it at all. I mean, it has changed my life, but you have to be careful because people can get seduced by the parlor trick. It's like, oh, show me how to do that, or that kind of thing, and that's
Yep.
not what I'm about. And so that's his advice, and uh, oh God, I'm gonna be terrible on his guru. He's had a couple. That's the other thing. I'm not a learned scholar on this stuff, Ryan. I'm sorry, brother.
The names of the
The
gurus, and you
names,
don't even need to
but
try.
anyway, him getting Shaktipat from this guru, and the guru just patting him on the head and just kind of saying, "Oh, don't worry." And Tom does his accent like he says, "Oh, don't worry, Tom. You'll be all right. You'll be fine." And that's kind of what Tom does to me. He's like, just flow with it. But the biggest piece of advice from him really is about not getting sucked in, because that's where people get in trouble. Suddenly I'm an expert. Suddenly I'm a this or I'm a that. And for me, that's not what this journey is about, right? But so all it is for me, like the astral stuff, it's just kind of validation that, yeah, that's this existence is part of a bigger existence, and we're all connected, and yeah, that's gonna and that this is how it works. Brother, one of I pulled up a poem. One of the things that started happening to me after this experience, series of experiences, I started writing poetry, and it's not something that I did before, but I would wake up at 3 or 4 in the morning. There'd be like a word or a phrase, kind of stamped on my head, and I would just have to write it. I would just have to write it down. So you tell me, is this there's a poem that came out that kind of talked about that whole physical experience. Can I read that?
Oh yeah, yeah. Share the poem, of course.
And then, I'll continue the wild story. This is called The Awakening Revisited. And when this happens, when these poems come out, it's the same kind of thing. I leave my body, and but you know, my hand writes, right? And I, rarely do I have an idea on what's going to be written. Rarely do I had, and that's why I started the podcast. It was like one of the reasons. It was like, I got to get this stuff down because I don't know what it is, you know. So if you can kind of imagine, it just flows out in like 5 minutes or whatever. So um, anyway, it's called The Awakening Revisited. My torso is a spiral shell, slowly moving, turning, creaking, tiny millimeters of movement. I can feel it. Intense heat, cool, refreshing rain, steam rises. Intense, like nothing I know or have ever known. Yet familiar. An old friend, a voice from my past that greets me with a warm welcome. What took you so long? The voice says. What took you so long? I say. Light, bright light, blinding light, sound. The river in my head rages, thunder, lightning from every direction. I am in the eye of the storm, quiet, calm, peaceful. Yet all around me, a hypercharged sensory overload is going full throttle. It is wonderful. It is thrilling. It tingles with the most delicious sensations I never dreamed imaginable. I'm spent, exhausted, yet it continues with its unrelenting pulse of pleasure, joy, sadness, release. The kind of release that comes when you've done everything possible to hold it back, until that moment when you know you can hold it no longer, but you try. Just hold on, and then it crashes through. The dam breaks, the river floods. Release, joy, ecstasy, relief, sadness, gratitude, acceptance. The channel from body to universe is wide open. The river rages, is pure light, pure energy. Every molecule in my physical being is alive, pulsing, luxuriating in the essence of being unshackled and free to become one with the universe. The body is no longer my body. The pleasure in the body is no longer my pleasure. It is the pleasure of the universe. The body has served its purpose. The body has provided a vehicle for me to reunite with the universe. My back arches, my toes extend, my legs rise up uncontrollably. The river rages throughout my body like a delicious explosion of all of my senses, both conscious and unconscious. It is the unconscious senses that quicken me most. I know not what they are, only that they are divine. They are pure. They are the essence of humanity. They pulse, they vibrate. Their song is the song of the river, growing louder and louder with the percussive reverberation drowning out everything. I am merging with the river. My body is rigid with an ecstasy I cannot explain. I can hold back no longer. My head splits in two, right down the middle. Intense light, blue, green, purple, white, spirals upward through the opening in my head up into the sky. My body is on a spit of light, slowly rotating as the cone of light courses through my legs, my pelvis, my torso, my head, lifting me into the air, slowly turning, rotating, cleansing. I am floating. My senses are on fire. I can see and I cannot see. I know and I don't know. I am and I am not. I am contradiction, and that's okay. I'm floating. I'm exhausted. I'm euphoric. I'm spent. I'm complete. I am done fighting. I am accepting. I am accepted. I am awake. Poem. So There you go.
Beautiful.
So that's the kind of stuff
Beautiful.
that comes out. It just kind of out it comes, and but that actually gives you an idea of the of what this whole thing was like. I had a note describing to Tom and Diane with my lying in bed and my spine twisting and turning. It says, I was lying, still thinking about nothing in particular. My spine started to pop. Each pop happened about 1 to 2 seconds apart. They were about 8 or 9 pops in all. They started low and went about halfway up my back. And remember, I can hear the pops internally, but they don't make an audible sound. Once the popping stopped, I slowly moved my torso back and forth. And this is important, right? I want you to think about this. And I say, if you have ever taken a door off of 1 or 2 of its hinges, you will get this. It was like my hinges had come loose and I was moving my spine back and forth. So with my mind, Ryan, I'm physically moving my spine like I've disconnected it and moving it around. Uh, and it felt fantastic. And of course, this makes no sense because if my spine's the door, what are the hinges? And I'm only moving this portion of my spine. It was only one portion. I know that it's physically impossible, but I'm telling you, I was moving that one portion of my spine back and forth. Um, and I thought to myself, I didn't know I could take that part of my spine out and moved it around. So anyway, so there you go. And then it's, then back on to the regular day. Uh,
Did the intensity of these experiences eventually taper off, or is it still like this?
so the part that has tapered off, so the answer is no, they haven't tapered off, but I've made peace with them, if that
Mm.
makes any sense at all. And actually, the things that have intensified the sound, you know, it's on. I'm listening to it right now. Um, it has exponentially grown on several occasions, and it never gets softer. There was a time, Ryan, I thought maybe I have a tumor, you know, and maybe I do. Who knows? But I don't think so. I thought, God, what is this? But it is. But here's what's beautiful about um, the sound. It's become like a friend. It is, and it is, and at satsang. So here is a chime, right?
Mhm.
And Tom would always start each satsang with the chime like this. And so in the early days of this experience, when I don't know what's going on, and what the heck am I doing sitting on the floor with all these other people I don't know, in this meditation thing, right? That was all new. But he would do the chime, and about 3.5 seconds into the chime, the frequency is at just the right pitch for me. It's a portal, and I leave. And the first time this happened, I was sitting in satsang, and I thought, "Whoa, what's that?" And then it happened again the next time, and then I started thinking, "What's going on here?" And he would start right there, and I would go. So I went on eBay and got myself a chime because I thought, I thought, so. But see, that's like a parlor trick. But the in the sense of saying, oh, there's a way that for me that works. But what all it is for me is that there are all these cues in our awareness that can aid us, or that are portals. This for me, probably only for me. We're all individuals, is one of them. I don't need the chime to do it, but it's an example of getting comfortable with. I still don't know what they are. The demon like spirit, and I use the word demon, but I don't mean demon. Demon doesn't have to be bad. A demon can just be a lost soul. It can be a lost part of yourself, right? That just needs to. So it's just getting comfortable with that. Getting comfortable with when I hold my hand up and look, I see color and like harp strings, if you will. Think of
I
vibrating.
know exactly what you're talking about. These
Do
little
you?
wisps,
Tell me.
right?
Yeah.
They're like little vibrational wisps
Yeah. So
that come
this
off of your
this
hands.
this just it's yeah, so it just is what it is. You know, it
Yeah.
just is what it is. Oh man, I feel like I've been
Yeah. So,
talking a lot.
or it's a kind of like I've seen a kind of an energetic. It's almost like an energetic membrane over a person's face, and it's rapidly moving.
But
Um,
yeah, but that's like the whole kind of matrixy element to this is that we're all just energy. All of this stuff is energy, and it's now for me it's just being comfortable with the fact that whether it's the imagery of going through a portal or astral projecting or it's all just energy. It's all just the beautiful stuff of the river, which is the thing that flows through my head. And I wanted to, um, if I could, can I read you the river? This is the very first one that happened. It was in this when there was that explosion of sound,
uh,
and I just had to put it down. Pulsing, breathing, flexing, moving, still, flat, round, all encompassing, distant and close. The river is the pulse of all these things. The river is the pulse of the universe. It is my pulse. It is your pulse. It's a pulse and it's not a pulse. The river is me, a billion, no billions of cicadas reminding me of life, of being in the present. The river soothes. The river asks for nothing. The river flows steady and warm, yet not warm, not cold, just is. The river is comforting without expectation, without demand. The river breathes, the river laughs kindly at my hesitation to dive in, to immerse myself. The river is in no hurry. It waits for me with patience. The river teases me by reminding me that the river is me, is us, is everything. The river beckons me with its song, a beautiful, peaceful, steady pulse that is life, that is death, that shows no favorites, has no use for the concept of other, only the concept of one. I am one. We are one. This room is one. The earth, planets, all that we know in this physical plane is part of one. The river flows with my life force. It is what awaits me when I die. No, actually, it doesn't await. It already is. The river doesn't teach about life. It is life, just as it is death. The river does not call for me. It breathes through me. The cicadas are me. I am the cicadas. We are the cicadas. We are the river. The river is the universe. The universe is me. Poem. So you see, it just that was the very first thing that came out, and it was as I was just trying to capture, uh, just trying to capture all the elements of this
wow.
lovely adventure.
The I wanted to ask you about some of the um, perceptual shifts that have happened
Yeah,
as a result of all of this Kundalini stuff, because you're describing a lot of experiences of cosmic consciousness, and I'm sure Tom, you've talked to Tom about this as well. But is that something that you experience daily now? Is this
every
something that
day,
is happening all the time? Right.
all the time, all the time. It's happening right now. I mean, it's just,
Exactly.
it's and it is. You could probably help with this because so it's not like I'm questing for something anymore. It's just here.
The the cosmicness or the expansion or the oneness that you're describing or that you're experiencing right now or that you're writing about, is this something that like it's like Scott is here and then there's this cosmicness that envelops Scott, or are Scott and the cosmicness inseparable?
Inseparable.
How inseparable? Okay.
It yeah, it is inseparable. And I think because I think the universe has a great sense of humor. Because uh, when I would try to analyze things, it would just whap me on the side of the head. Just, like it's like, come on, brother, knock it off. And it's uh, and you just I and I'm sure there are many ways to approach this. As I said, I didn't start out on a quest to achieve something. And I don't know if that's good, bad, or indifferent. It doesn't matter, actually. In my case, it just bomped me on the head, and there we are. But I'll tell you, it was quite beautiful. My pops passed away this past summer, and I had the glorious opportunity to be with him for the last couple of months of his life, and to be with him when he transitioned. And you know, I Ryan, I guess every people who are searching for enlightenment or whatever you want to call it, for awakening, and I've learned this from Tom, from my teacher, the most important thing is you've got everything you need. There's not a person on this planet who doesn't have everything they need right there within them, um, to achieve awakening. It's all there. It's not like you have to buy it from somebody, or you have to get somebody's 6 steps or whatever. I mean, that's great if that works, but you actually don't need that. And when Pops passed, the week before he passed, there was just so many cosmic things happening. Like I would be thunderclaps waking me up in the middle of the night, being visited by a what I call him the shadow man, beckoning me to come along, because we knew my pops was leaving and all this stuff. And what I marvel at is all of those elements, which are not to be feared, are all around us all the time. It's just sort of tweaking your your antenna, so you can tap into that. Yeah, so it's not Scott, and then, although it started out that way, it's
Mm.
it's just it's the I am, right? It's the you know and then every once in a while I jump out, get back into this head, and try to analyze what that means. Jeez, I'm a
You
terrible
describe
student, man.
how would you describe the I am? Is it just this indestructible presence as an observer, as a witness? What is that like for you?
It is. That's I like that word, indestructible. I hadn't thought of that, but it is indestructible because it is the is. It is. The it is, and it's beautiful, and it's everywhere. But when I say it's beautiful, it's not. There are elements of light and dark in everything, and that's okay, right? Or for me anyway. So it's not like playing a harp on a cloud. It's not that. It's the river, man. I mean, imagine yourself just immersed in the power of a river, and the sound, the deafening sound, and just embracing that, right? And just giving yourself to that. And it's quite an amazing,
And
amazing,
ultimately being that, which is
and being that,
profound,
it's just,
incredibly profound.
yeah, it's beautiful. But I'm so grateful. I feel so grateful that for this current trip that I'm on in this body, that I've had this opportunity, opportunity to kind of go, huh, okay, so there you go. But yeah, lately I've been. You were asking earlier about the sound, which continues to exponentially get louder and louder. And when I say louder, it's deafening right now at one level, but I don't know that it maybe is louder. Maybe it's louder. You use the word louder in a different context. I'm more immersed in it.
Hmm.
And I've had
Taking
that
up more of your attention. Is that what you mean?
yeah, so I've had that experience like with meditation. So when I meditate, I will allow myself to not breathe. And I don't know, you're the meditation guy, I'm not, but just that getting in touch with the physical, um, reality that for the body to stay alive, you need to bring in oxygen, but also for the opportunity to choose how and when that happens. And it's quite, it puts you in an interesting, different kind of state of being so I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling a little bit, but
What is do you would you say that there's a general theme from the journeys that you've had? Because you're describing a lot of multidimensional or interdimensional experiences, other realities. Have you found that there's a reason or like a meaning or a theme, a story that explains why all of it's happening? Because one of the questions that I have, as far as awakening is concerned, it makes complete sense to me. Awakening in the sense of no longer experiencing life through subject and object, an observer, separateness, all of that disappearing. That all makes sense in the context of the training that I've done and what I do. I teach meditation. This is all normal. But the out of body journeys, the alternate realities, the things I've found myself doing in other places, it's starting to make more sense, but it's still just so strange. I mean, what do you think is one of the threads that runs through the experiences that you've had in these other realities?
for me, it's acceptance. It's
Wow.
accepting, accepting the is that yeah, it's acceptance. I was as you were talking, as you were kind of formulating your question. That's the word that just overpowered me. It's just acceptance. And Ryan,
Oh, that hit me so hard.
I'm glad.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, the theme I've been finding these these cells and other realities helping beings. So for you, maybe the theme, of course, you're saying the theme was acceptance, and for me, it's love. That
And that's part of acceptance, brother. And I mean,
okay.
it's part and parcel. It's part and parcel because look, man, you know, if I can learn acceptance for me, for my journey, where I am, where you are in your journey, and then what comes from that, and sharing love, it's like, it's part of the same package. But it is that, and I loved your physical reaction there, the kind of the oh, you know, because that's what whoever channels through, I don't know, whoever, that's kind of the, it's kind of like keep it simple, stupid. Hey Scott, this is not complicated. It's simple. And Ryan, it is simple. It is not complicated. Acceptance. And that doesn't mean accepting things that are bad or things that are terrible. I mean acceptance of the self, of this kind of unconditional loving being that is in all of us at some place, at some place, even in the worst of us, right? But it's wow, it's because if I can learn to accept you where you are, then that's a starting place to grow. If I can't accept you for where you are right now, then we don't stand a chance. So,
Your perception of other people, do you really feel that there are even other people anymore?
um,
You know what I mean?
thanks a lot, brother. Now you're really gonna get me in trouble. So, oh God, you sucker. Not really.
Exactly.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No, I'm not sorry. Because that's where it's all going, right?
Yeah.
We're all part of the same dust, man. So enjoy the vessel that you're in, and what a great treat, enjoy that. But yeah, we're all part of the same. And my first, which I do not um, articulate well, but that very first time on the table when I went inside my body with Diane and we went through the membrane, the thick gooey membrane,
Yep.
and I'm just recent. I mean, it's like holy moly, what is all this? But that's when it hits you. Or that's when it hit me. It's like, wait a minute, we're all one. So parse that out, brother. Yeah, how can you and I be separate if we're all one,
Yep.
right?
Exactly. And I mean, it's just, I mean, you're incredibly fortunate that this happened to you, first of all, that you didn't, that you never had to have a journey with a goal. You were graced with having a journey
Yeah,
without a goal. Like, that
yeah.
is
Story
amazing.
story of my life. Would you get a
Yeah.
goal?
Yeah. How did the awakening inform your life, your career as a mental health
One
professional?
of the funny things was, so I outed myself with my audience. So I have a newsletter that goes out all over the country. It goes out in lots of countries around the world. And we don't have a huge audience, but we have about 15,000 people, hardcore people from in the mental health space from all over who read the news. And I outed myself, and I just said, hey guys, I just need to share this with you that I've had this, because what am I going to do? It's like, I mean, I'm like, okay. So, and crickets, brother. I mean, silence, silence. There was like two people who reached out to me. One, a dear friend and colleague, um, and I'm not going to name this person, but because I'm hopefully, I think this is okay. I'm gonna share a story. This person um, contacted me, and she uh, had a vision of her mother who had passed, had come to her in a vision, and she was just sharing that um, she got it. She was like, I think I get it. This thing that you're doing, which sounds weird, right? But she said, I had this experience, and I said, beautiful. That's just so beautiful. But and you probably have experienced this too. But it's as Tom teases me, he says it's not always the starter conversation at the cocktail party, Scott. You may want to go
That's
easy, go easy. But I completely outed myself. I figured I'm going to go public. And so, and then I just, well, what else am I going to do, man? And so then,
not go public. that's
no, yeah,
that's what.
not go public. Got it. I hadn't thought of that one. And so I started the podcast, the Kundalini Chronicles, where I share the poetry. And really, I did that for my kids and for my grandkids, so that, when I'm long gone, there'll be this record where they can say, well, what the heck was Pop talking about with all that stuff? Ryan, for me, it was just like, I just, it was, it has been such a profound experience. It's so hard to articulate to people, but it's real for me. I just wanted a record. I want my grandkids to be able to listen to a recording of their pop pop and say, okay, that's what was cooking for for pops.
What did your wife, what did your kids, what did your friends, what did your parents think of all of
So
this?
my wife is amazing, and she so this is not her world, right? She's not her world, but she's so incredibly accepting. She doesn't attend satsang with me, not out of a desire not to, but just out of that's just not her thing. But she always says, every Sunday morning she says, yeah, satsang, gotta go to satsang, and um, she is very spiritual in her way. She's I've always thought of her as an incredibly spiritual person. But I was so lucky. I think my kids probably just rolled their eyes a little bit. It's like, oh Lord, there he goes. But that's okay. That's why I'm doing the recording so that I could, go back and look later. My dad, my father, my mom passed years ago, but my pops, incredibly spiritual guy. He has been
Whoa.
talking to spirits since he was young, and so not using the language of Kundalini, not but we have talked a lot over the years, and so when I talked to him about this, I said, we're not too far apart, and for pops, back in the day, you know, talking to hearing voices, talking to people was considered a psychiatric disorder, right? And
Yep.
so it's not there wasn't the climate, I think, where you could talk about this, but we would talk about it, and so he was very supportive, and on his deathbed, I mean, it was Ryan, it was the most beautiful thing. It was just the most beautiful, beautiful experience. So yeah, so they're good. What I found is a lot of people, I think, who really love me, it's just a little uncomfortable to talk about, probably because it just feels like you did what? I mean,
What?
listen, I would like what am I going to say? Okay, I want you all to understand that the law of physics does not apply in Tom's office when I'm trying to sit on this chair because and I have a witness, but but it doesn't matter, you know, how I mean, it was hard. I got emotional telling you it was hard for me to share that story because I know that it
I
just sounds
know.
so nuts, right?
When with these last days with your father, was there like a final lesson or final words that he left for you that he told you?
Well, I'll tell you a funny story, and I'll tell you a funny lesson, and then uh, more moving one. So he was in hospice, and I'm sitting there by his bedside, and he's having the death rattle, where it's I don't know if you've ever heard that, but it's you
I
just
have.
yeah. So what it's a raspy wheezing, that kind of thing, and he had medication, he had morphine and other medication to calm him, so that it could have been an easier process, and so um, I'm on the phone to uh, the nurse, the hospice nurse, just to let her know here's where we're at. We think it's time, and just to let them know. But it's the middle of the night, right? And so and Pop's ready to go. He's not. There's not that kind of anxiety. And but so I had the phone on speaker because we love the hospice nurse. I don't know what I was thinking that she was going to answer the phone at like 2:30, 3 in the morning, right? And it's the answering service or the call service, and they're going to connect me to the on duty one. So she puts us on hold, and this Muzak comes on, this god awful Muzak. So we're sitting there, Pop's in between the death rattle breathing, and he looks at me and he goes, so this is palliative care. sitting sitting on sitting on hold. So that was the funny one. But the lesson, and my pop lived this, was acceptance. Complete 150% acceptance of the love that we have each other, acceptance that this was the time for him to move on, acceptance that it was time for me to stay. It's you don't have to make this complicated, and it was a beautiful thing, and we did some meditation together and got the breathing calmed down, and then it was just time to let this physical body go. And um and here's the thing, Ryan, because the language you use is, see you on the other side, or, time to go to the other side. But here's the little secret. There is no other side. It's all right here. And I don't mean an earthly plane. I mean, that's the is, right? It's all part of this existence of you and I on this Zoom call. That's just part of the play. That's just, it I probably don't say that right. But anyway. Yeah. So, and that is a lesson that it it wasn't a lesson, when I say acceptance, he did it not just with words, but he did it with action.
Mm.
He was very prominent in the AA community, and was had just, you know, an amazing life. But he I had one of his um, sponsees tell me that in all the years when this guy would relapse, he would be in and out, in and out, in and out. He said, "Your pops never failed, always accepted me." You know, it's a deep, powerful thing, And then the guy finally got clean, and it's incredible, and all that stuff. But he said that was the uh, lesson that your pop taught us all. This is not complicated, Ryan. Acceptance, brother.
That's the title of this episode: Kundalini and Acceptance.
Yeah.
That's it. Well, we definitely need to do another episode, either a story of our fathers episode or a Kundalini OBE roundtable with some other guests. That would be
I would love to.
awesome
That would
and
be
so
fun.
much fun.
Yeah.
But Scott, thank you so much. I mean, this was just an incredible conversation, and I loved hearing your story. Is there anything else you wanna leave the viewers with?
Yeah, no, I just I, in because I get asked this a lot, how do I get there? How do I get to where you are? How do I have that experience of what you are? And it's like, yeah, probably the fastest way to get there is to stop trying to get there.
Fastest way to get there is to be here because there is
Yes.
no there.
Yes. And that response usually doesn't generate a lot of love, but everything you have is within your grasp. It's all here. You just got to sit quietly, listen for it. This is where someone like you comes in, man. In the work you do. It's all there. It's all there. It's not held from us, you know? So anyway, I loved it. I had a lot of fun.
Fantastic. Scott, Bryant, Comstock, thank you. Thank you
Yep.
for coming on After Awakening, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Thank you, brother.